G'day cocktail lovers. As I continue to move through my self-proclaimed Martini week, I thought it was time to introduce the mysteries and wonder of the freezer martini. If you're unfamiliar with the concept, it's exactly what it says on the label. You batch a martini or martinis, put it in a bottle, put it in the freezer. The joy of such a high-proof cocktail is it isn't going to freeze. Now, having said that, it should be diluted to allow for the normal dilution you would get by stirring on ice. In fact, volume-wise, it should be up to 1/3 water. But that's not enough water! Those little water molecules, they want to freeze. They try hard to freeze, and the alcohol goes, nah, I don't think so. It does have one effect I quite like, in that it's slightly viscous as the water's trying to freeze and the alcohol won't let it. So when you pour, it's just a little bit different experience. Just flows out in a different way, and I really like it. So once you pour your freezer martini, all you gotta do, add your garnish of choice, and there you go. This is basically as cold as the drink can get. The coldness is part of the experience for me. I really do love keeping up the freezer martini. And I mean keeping it up. I have an infinity freezer martini, which means when I drink it down a little, I have a couple drinks, rather than emptying the entire bottle, I will top it up again. And my usual way of topping it up with whatever volume needs to go in there, it'll be like 1/3 Navy strength gin, 1/3 regular strength gin, 1/3 water, and a little bit of vermouth, depending how much I'm putting in. About a 6:1 ratio of the gin to vermouth, and occasionally a dash of bitters, or several dashes of bitters, and occasionally, just for fun, I'll dirty it up a bit, put some olive brine in there. And hey, if you're like me and don't actually eat olives, so there's no leftover brine, you can actually get bottles just of olive brine, specifically for making dirty martinis. Sometimes I'll add it to the bottle, sometimes I'll add it to the martini in the glass after I make it, if I'm in a dirty mood. I've had this particular infinity martini going for about 2 years. I kind of wish I'd made a note of when I did it, because I started one way back at the start of COVID and lockdowns, just for fun, and I actually emptied that after a while and then started again. I don't remember exactly how long ago, and I don't remember exactly how many different gins are in there. It's dozens of gins and at least half a dozen different vermouths in there over that time. And it would kind of be fun to have a record, so I know there's all these little ghosts of different gins in there, but it's lost to time now, so yeah, what are you gonna do? If you do this sort of thing, one thing you'll probably end up discovering, because it's happened to me, is inexplicably, when you top it up one time and then you taste it after it's been in the freezer for a while to chill again, something's not right. You think, well, how could it not be right? I'm still just doing gin and water and vermouth. But sometimes what has happened to me, it's too bitter, and I have no idea why. I don't know what I've done that's thrown it out of whack, but you can always recover it. The first time I noticed it was too bitter, it was just unpalatable. I thought, I need to add something sweet to this, because that makes sense, right? And I did actually add maraschino liqueur, because that was a clear maraschino liqueur, so it wouldn't affect how the martini looked. And it did bring it back in line, but it was also kind of cheating. I thought it was a bit impure. And upon reading a bit on how to bring things back when they're bitter, a counterintuitive but real thing is salt. Salt is a flavor enhancer, and this is in cooking as well as martinis. A little bit of salt can really bring up the good flavors. And of course, martini, dirty martini. So if I ever feel like the cocktail's gone off a bit in the direction where it's too bitter for me, I put a bit of the olive brine in, and that brings it back as well. And it feels a bit more like you're staying true to a martini as well when you do that. Another fun thing you can do with the water that you dilute the freezer martini with is different types of water, or dare I say, flavored waters. Something as simple as using mineral water rather than tap water can bring just a subtle different characteristic to your martini. And on top of that, you could use coconut water. slice up some cucumber and muddle that a bit in the water, get some cucumber water. Because I wouldn't recommend doing that for the entire bottle of a freezer martini, but if you're just topping it up, so you're using maybe 30 to 60 mils of water on a 500 to 750 mil bottle, that tiny bit of subtlety just blends in there. It doesn't dominate the whole taste, but it brings something subtle that you almost can't quite place, but it's definitely there. And it makes for a fun exploration. So you can experiment with what gins you put in there, what vermouths you put in, what water, what bitters, when and if you put brine in there. So it's basically constantly evolving. And while I really enjoy drinking my freezer martini, it's always fun to me. It's like, okay, I'm going to top it up, and what gin will I use this time? I'll use that one, I'll use that one, and top it up, put it back in the freezer, leave it for a couple of days. Then I'm always interested, ooh, what's it going to taste like this time? Like at the moment, there is just a faint hint of saline. I haven't put brine in it for a while, but it's just vaguely there. It's just very lightly dirty. It's not filthy dirty. It's got that whole character. So like if you put in a citrus forward gin, you'll notice a shift in that direction. If you put dry gins in, you'll get a little shift in that direction. And I love doing it a bit at a time, like not completely changing the bottle, although there's nothing wrong with drinking the whole thing and starting again. But I love having a couple of drinks out of it and then topping it up and seeing what that does. It's a constant adventure. I will leave you with this hot tip. While it's fun to just pour straight from the bottle into a martini glass, martini glasses can be deceptively voluminous, and particularly because of the shape, the more you top up, you actually are exponentially increasing the amount of liquid in there. It doesn't hurt to measure what you put in. I get my jigger, it's a 3-ounce jigger, 90ml jigger. I'll say, I'll do that. That will be a martini. Because if you free pour it, it's easy to go, oh look, I'm not even filling my glass, and you don't realize how much you've put in, and it catches up with you a bit later. So I'm not shy about liking a strong martini, but it's kind of good to know how much you're drinking as well, so you can manage it. Just word to the wise from perhaps the not so wise. So if you like your martinis, I really recommend trying the freezer martini, even as a one-off. But for me, it's even more fun when it's an infinity martini, because it's constantly evolving, constantly changing, and you get a little surprise each time you try a new batch. And that's just fun as far as I'm concerned. So I hope some of this has been of interest to you, and you maybe try it yourself down the line, and I hope to see you again. Until then, I'll just say cheers.